Hi, welcome to Tendoc Talks about the Power Rangers role-playing game. Today we're going to talk about some of the Power Rangers role-playing accessories that have been released and whether or not they're worth your investment or time. We're going to talk about the Power Rangers dice. We're going to talk about the Power Rangers character journal, and of course the Power Rangers dice bag that doesn't come with the dice, but you can certainly buy it and use it. Let's start with the easy one first. This is the dice bag. Well, green screen issues here, but this is the dice bag that came with the that was made for the Power Rangers role-playing game. There's really nothing special about it. It's just a black bag. Um, I will say something about its features though. The drawstring that you use to close the bag, it has one of these standard clips, right? You've all seen these before. They basically holds bags shut. Well, when you pull it tight and then have it connected, it really doesn't take any force at all to move this thing, which basically means it's completely useless. This bag is not going to stay closed, so when you store it somewhere, like in a bigger bag or whatever, just go ahead and make sure it's face up, right? Make sure it's face up in the bag. Otherwise, it's just going to spill all over the place. Now, the material is okay. It's good and thick, so it's not really a durability issue. But the little tab is it's not great, especially when you consider the fact that this was like $30. I mean, just go buy a craft bag to keep your dice in. Unfortunately, I can't recommend it. The next thing I want to talk about is the Power Rangers character role-playing journal. This is a journal that you can use to store some of your character information, campaign information. It has a couple of handy charts to help you. Um, but I'm gonna have to get honest here real quick, right? When I first saw this journal on the shelf of my friendly game store, I bought it thinking, great, uh, 80-page journal. I can use this to keep track of all of my Power Rangers characters, that I'm ever gonna make, or NPCs and stuff. Uh, Some of you that have bought character journals before for other role-playing games can already see uh, my disappointment and what's coming next. So this was sealed in plastic. I could not open it. All I had was a picture on the back, which this doesn't have. It was on the plastic, right? And I saw some character sheets in there. Turns out this 80-page book is for one character. And that's how character journals work, actually. It's pretty standard. So there's if you really want to keep track of one of your characters using this book, you can. Let me tell you some of the features that it has, right? So, right on the inside cover, there is a table that shows you the base dice types, like the shift ladder, right? Above D12 is 2D8, above that is 3D6. That's pretty cool. It tells you your turn actions, that speed 1 gives you a move or a standard, speed 2 gives you move, standard, or 2 free actions, and it goes into what's a standard and what's a move, all of those different actions. So it is pretty neat. I do have to give it that it's very handy for a quick reference. The only other quick reference are the very last pages where it has an assortment of some of the rules it thinks you might want to know, right? It talks about attack actions, how you acquire a target, you modify your skill dice, you determine the defense that you're going to hit. You roll attack and then you apply effects. It explains a contingency action, basically how to say you're going to do something as a result of a trigger. It explains what defend does, what hide does, what lend assistance does, that you can use a non-combat skill, and that you can sprint. But I think one of the most helpful ones is what you can use a story point for. Um, it's very easy to forget that you have this shared resource. And the number of things it can do, I'm going to be honest, there's some very specific situations that you're going to use story points for. So let's go over those in brief. You can re-roll any die result of 1, just 1, on any type of die. You can roll a skill test as if you were specialized. Here's a good one. You can add +5 to any defense before dice is rolled, or +1 to any defense after dice is rolled. So if you really don't want to get hit with something, if there's a story reason why you really shouldn't be hit, right? It's a story point. As you remember, you start every session with a number of story points equal to the number of players that you have. You can spend a story point to gain access to a minor piece of equipment. You can use it to get a clue if you are stumped as to what to do in the game. And some perks, game effects, etc. actually call out the requirement to spend a story point. And if you remember from my Phantom Ranger video, a Phantom Ranger has the ability to spend story points to reroll any die, not just natural ones. At least I think that's the Phantom Ranger. I might be spoiling something. But moving on. So right here is the last time in the book it talks about what you can do with story points. Immediately after, it starts talking about something else, and there is no warning at all. It says, regular enemies, minions, and other enemy characters become defeated the instant they drop to 0 health. Cool. What does that have to do with story points? I think there was supposed to be a heading here, and they missed it. The very next thing it says, the GM can determine that a defeated creature cannot regain health unless a powerful story beat occurs to restore it to life. Again, this is not story points. Characters that rest for 6 hours heal all damage and recover an Estus point. A good note. All of that is still underneath story point heading, or the story point heading though, so it really should have been called out a little better. And here's one of the typos in this book. As a standard action, you may make a science skill test to heal damage. 0. Heal 1 health. The diff is 10. 2 health is diff 15. 3 health is diff 20. And so on, no period. That, you can't see it, but there's a 0 there that isn't supposed to be there at all. It doesn't make sense where it is. And there's no period on the last sentence. And I wish I could say that was the only spelling error here, but it's not. I just skipped the ones on the first page. Like, there's still really basic errors in the stuff that Renegade Games is putting out. The quality control on their first round of stuff was really, really bad. Their books are getting better as time goes along. Adventures in Angel Grove fixed some things unintentionally, but it did fix some things. Across the Stars attempted to fix swords in a couple of ways. And A Jump Through Time has finally fixed some things. But that's a whole other series of video. What about the journal itself? Like, what are the guts of this thing, right? Well, on the first page, you can put your character name, your game master, your campaign name, etc. Then it has a table of contents for all the things that you could store in it, plus some blank pages that you can do your own. Now, a solid chunk of this book, more than half, is just, scrap paper. You can write on it. There's even areas where you can draw a map because there's a grid. So it's just notes. But the parts that aren't notes, there's like 30 pages that isn't notes, right? This is basically a representation of some of the information off your character sheet on the first 2 pages. It covers your weapons, your armor, your health, your name, your powers, your perks, and your backgrounds, but your skills aren't here. You have to turn the page for that. You have a whole set for skills, and then you have a page for your Zord and some notes. A page later, you have the Megazord and all the Zord components that make up that. And that's your character sheet. The rest of it is going to get into flavor text that is entirely optional to make this game work. It has sections for my name is whatever, my family growing up was, once I was a child, my biggest hobby is, I'm very interested in, more about me. There's a section about how I was called to the power. I guess this assumes that you didn't have a session where you became Power Rangers, or maybe you could just recount what happened. There's a section for your personality. What is my origin and how does it affect my character? Your life experiences, your hang-ups, who your mentor was, lots of pages for your perks and powers, your home, your family, your friends, your contacts, your allies, your enemies, a section for a major turning point. You know, for those of you who want to be Tommy turning into Draken. What type of power suit do I have? What does it look like for those artists out there? My equipment, my power weapon, my Zord, our Megazord, and your fellow Rangers. You can do a little blurb about it. So it is pretty neat. But I'm going to be honest. This was expensive. It was like $40 or $50. And you can only put one character in it. And if you're not going to go crazy into the details of your character, this is not worth your time. Plus, it's not Spiral Notebook. This thing is not going to lay flat to save its life. So unless you have a whole bunch of those little like sticky notepad bookmarks, probably not going to get a lot of use out of this. Plus, it turned your character sheet that was like 1 page front and back plus a page for Zords into something that you have to flip pages for to find stuff. Honestly, I think you're better off just going to the dollar store, buying a Spiral Notebook, and using that. Now, it's cool. It's cool looking, but $40, $50. Do you know how much a notebook costs at the dollar store? Well, I mean, it's the dollar store, right? I'm afraid I can't really recommend it unless you just already think it's cool. I was just frustrated that it was sealed, so you could not tell what was inside of it. So hopefully this has gone a little bit of a ways to helping you decide if you want to buy it. And now, let's talk about the Power Rangers dice. They made it in 6 colors: red, black, green, pink, blue, and yellow. They didn't make white dice, gold dice, silver dice. Those are the only colors so far. And I have some things to say. I have here the Red Rangers dice. This is a D20. It comes with 2 D20s so that you can do advantage and disadvantage. Pretty standard. The numbers go from 1 to 20, although 20, and I don't know if you can see this, I'm going to try real hard, is the Power Rangers Lightning Bolt, which is pretty cool. Although it is a tiny bit misleading, because a lot of the time a company will put the symbol of their game as the number 20 or as the number 1. It depends on the game. Usually it's the number 20 because when you roll a high number in most games, it means you've crit. So the number doesn't matter anymore. So if you roll Lightning Bolt on most games, that would mean, oh, well, it doesn't matter what you rolled, you crit. But in the Power Rangers game, it absolutely does matter. because rolling highest die on anything doesn't necessarily mean you crit. You still have to succeed at the roll, which means you still need to know what the numbers are. And you're not just tracking this on one die. See, the D4 has a lightning bolt. The D6 has a lightning bolt. The D8 has a lightning bolt. The D10 has a lightning bolt. The D12 has a lightning bolt. Okay, that's so for those of us who have played role-playing games for our whole lives, we're going to know the difference between a D8, a D6, and a D10, right? And a D12, right? All of these are different shapes, right? D10, D12, D8. But someone who has never played a role-playing game before, like this is their first exposure to using role-play dice, they're not going to know a difference between an 8, a 10, and a 12. And then they're going to roll, and it's going to be like, I got lightning bolt. Okay, so how much is that worth? Well, did you roll the D10 or the D12? They're like, I don't know. So they rolled a die, they got a character, and they don't know what it means. There's going to be a little bit of that frustration in the beginning, at least. I'm not saying this is the reason not to buy the dice. Okay, it's a pretty weak reason. It just means you have to stick with your, you really have to teach the people that you're playing with the different die and what they look like and what they're called. And it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. But they really shouldn't have made the D20 a lightning bolt because that's going to trick a lot of people into thinking that they've critically hit. It should just be a 20. Because remember, to crit in the Power Rangers role-playing game, one of your non-20 dice has to come up a lightning bolt. Sorry. One of your non-20 dice has to come up its maximum value. And then all dice that you rolled added together has to be enough to beat your target number. So here's another problem. The quality of the dice. So you can't tell, but this feels rather light. Now, it rolls okay. You don't get the same number every time. Rolling it feels fine, I guess. But when I bought this at the game store, this was my D8. It's hard to tell, but the D5 is corrupted. It's like one big blob, and you can't tell really, but it's pretty heavily divoted, right? No big deal. I went to Renegade Games. I told them my D8 was defective, and they sent me a new one for free. Same thing happened with the Pink Ranger D20 dice. The 14, oh gosh, you can't tell at all. No, you can't tell at all. The number 1 is bloated and dug out and like filled with white paint again. So, it's not the greatest quality. So I simply called Renegade Games and they gave me another Pink Ranger dice. This one's totally fine. Again, for free. No shipping, no handling. You just go to renegadegames.com. There's a whole section for dice that are defective. You're going to find out why in a second. But there's a whole, dedicated space for it. You just tell them and they send you a new one. There's no charge. And that's okay. Here's what's not okay. If you're going to buy a set of the Power Rangers dice, buy it from the Renegade website. Do not buy it from your local game store. Don't buy it from eBay. Don't buy it from anyone except Renegade directly. Here's why. There's a misprint on every single D4. So when you roll a D4, the highest number, the one that you can read, is the number that you rolled, right? So that's a 3. I'm going to rotate it. That's also a 3. I'm going to rotate it. Uh-oh. Okay, so what about What about maximum value? So lightning bolt, or 4, right? That's a lightning bolt. That's a lightning bolt. Uh-oh. Now, when I say every single dice, I mean every single D4 they have ever made. Every single D4 they have ever made for Power Rangers, Transformers, or G.I. Joe, they are all wrong. Power Rangers has lightning bolts. G.I. Joe has the G.I. Joe symbol. I don't remember Transformers. It's probably the Autobot head, but they are all wrong. If you buy them from a store or an eBay or another person, you're going to get a D4 that is wrong. Now, you can go to renegadegames.com. You can tell them, I need a set of D4s from every color, and they won't even check to see if you've purchased the dice before. You don't need receipt, you don't need proof, they just send you one for free. So you can do that. However, if you just buy the Power Rangers dice through the website, they will automatically include a second D4 for free that is correct. So this is a correct one. Lightning bolts all the way around. And 3s all the way around. Right? So I suppose one day it will eventually be correct, but for now, I bought 6 sets of dice, and I had two situations of dice that were broken that weren't D4s, and then 6 times the D4s were wrong. So if that modifies your opinion of the dice set at all, then keep that in mind. Now, how much do these dice cost? Well, it's $15 for a set. And there's one die I didn't go over yet because I was saving it for last because it's actually pretty neat. The D2. The D2 in the Power Rangers role-playing game is a power coin. Now, I love this thing. The other side is a lightning bolt. The first side, it depends on the ranger, but this is the red one, which is the Tyrannosaur. This is the mammoth, which is the black ranger. The pterodactyl, which is the pink. The dragon, which is the green. Then you have the saber-toothed tiger and the triceratops. I know you can't see it very well. I'm getting some bad green screen effects right now. My concern, I saw these sets with the power coin and the dice, and I was thinking right away, I'm like, that is awesome. I want those power coins. I don't care about the dice. I want the power coins. And I was hoping that these coins weren't a piece of crap. And I am happy to say these have some weight to them. This actually just feels like a poker chip that's designed to look like a Power Rangers token. That is amazing. It's a good flip. It's a good coin. This feels fantastic to hold. It's really neat to have a Power Rangers power coin in your hand. I mean, come on, it's Power Rangers, right? Ever since the Mighty Morphin era, where it's been like, oh, it'd be so cool to have a Morpher and a power coin. It's really neat. It's really fun. It kind of throws off your whole fistful of dice, though, right? So you have a full set of Power Rangers dice, and you're ready to go, and you're gonna roll it, and then, oh yeah, the coin. So you have to roll that, and then you have to flip the coin separately. So that's a bit of a drag. I almost wish it was some kind of dice. And before you tell me, well, it's a two-sided die, it has to be a coin. No, there are runic dice. They're really interesting shapes, but they exist. It's basically like you take 2 D shapes and stick them together so that it can only land one of 2 places, but it still rolls. That might have been better, but come on. Power coins. I love that sound. Here we go, one more time. They've actually got some weight to them. They're not like Connect 4 pieces. You can, and it's not going anywhere. It's not like a Parcheesi piece. So, was that worth $15? I'm going to let you decide. I have a full set of Power Rangers dice, and I think they're fun, but I can already foresee uh, players not knowing which die was which and rolling a lightning bolt and having no idea what that means. Um, and when I presented these dice to my friends, they all had their dice already, like not Power Rangers dice, they had regular ones. Nobody was really interested in using my dice, even though they were thematically appropriate. People are very superstitious about their dice, and, more power to them. But they did like the coins. The coins were a big hit. And if there was another way to get coins, I probably would have. Now, some of you might be saying, oh, just go to Etsy. They make power coins. Yeah, but you'll find out way too late that they're the size of a dime, or they're a pin, or they're a button. And you just won't know until it's too late. You'll find a really nice looking power coin, you'll order it, you'll get it in the mail, and it'll be like, a dinner plate for a Barbie doll. And that's not what you wanted. That's not what you needed, and that wasn't what you were going to use it for. Plus, the front and the back have to be different for it to be a coin. One more complaint though. If you had to decide which side was crit, well, okay, so you can't crit on a D2. Well, okay, but there are special abilities that do let you in later books. Anyway, my point is this, right? If you were to look at this coin, you would think of this being heads and this being tails, right? And because the tails side is the one that they all have in common. So when I think of that, then I think of heads as being +2 and lightning bolt as being +1. But for every other dice in the game, lightning bolt is the highest value you can roll. So it feels weird to say that the lightning bolt represents 2 and the picture represents 1, especially since, and you can't really see this, there's no text on the heads side. But there is some copyright information on the tails side. You can just barely tell that there's some text there. I'm using the green coin. That was really terrible for a green screen, but that would indicate to me that it's the back. And, the front of something is usually the more impressive one, and it should deserve the right to be 2, and the lightning bolt should be 1. But that, the dice, the highest value is lightning bolt, so that's a small complaint. It really doesn't matter, but for me, it bothers me a lot. I don't know what they would have done otherwise, like a different symbol. Anyway, when it comes to the merchandise, I will try to preview as much of their things as I can, but so far, I'm not particularly impressed. They're kind of middle of the road. The power coins are awesome, but there's no way to buy them separately, and $15 a kit is just too much for a power coin. The bag wasn't worth it. The journal could be if you're the kind of person who likes that kind of thing. Otherwise, you're going to be able to find your stuff a lot faster if you just have that one page character sheet and a one page sword sheet, and you put that one away when you're not using it. Otherwise, stay tuned for more.